This is a memory from my childhood. My family lived in the countryside. When harvest season came around, the hillside behind our house would be covered with mushrooms ready for picking. Back in elementary school, it was my grandfather who showed us where to find them. He and I would go together. After I started middle school, sometimes I'd go alone, sometimes with friends. It happened on a Sunday during harvest season. A friend and I went to the back hill to pick mushrooms. At first, everything went smoothly. We gathered quite a lot. Just as we were getting ready to head back, my friend suddenly screamed and fell to the ground. The back hill was overgrown with trees and wild grass, so getting your foot cut by a branch was pretty common. I figured that's what had happened to her, but when I turned to look at my friend, I saw her staring straight up into the trees, so I followed her gaze. There, hanging above us, were bodies, 2 of them. I froze. The shock hit me like a wave. I couldn't even make a sound. Instinctively, I stumbled backward. I couldn't do anything. My mind plunged into pure panic. When I finally pulled myself out of that spiral and looked more carefully, I realized they weren't real people. They were mannequins. What kind of sick prank was this? My friend and I cursed whoever did it as we made our way down the mountain. When we got back to my house, I told my father what had happened over lunch. After hearing the story, he said, we needed to get rid of those things before they scared anyone else who went up the mountain. So the 3 of us grabbed a ladder, an axe, and some pruning shears, and headed up to deal with the mannequins. When we reached the spot, we could see the 2 mannequins hanging there from a distance. My father set up the ladder. My friend and I held it steady while he quickly climbed up, cut the rope around the mannequins' necks, and threw them down. The 3 of us carried them back to the storage shed. But then we realized if we left the mannequins here and someone passing by saw them, they might mistake them for real people. That would cause all kinds of trouble. So to avoid any misunderstanding, I started taking the clothes off one of the mannequins. The moment I pulled the clothes away, cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Unease flooded through me, because there, written in red paint across the mannequin's belly, were large characters that read, whoever takes down this mannequin will die. We all froze. My father quickly stripped the clothes off the other mannequin. On its belly, more large characters, whoever takes down this mannequin, their most beloved person will die. My friend and I couldn't speak. Fear and dread filled our hearts. Was this some kind of curse? We were paralyzed with terror. My father quickly tried to comfort us. You 2 go buy some juice, he said. I'll handle this. While we were gone, my father hauled the mannequins out of the shed and smashed them to pieces. Then he threw them away. After that, the incident became forbidden territory between my friend, my father, and me. It wasn't exactly a supernatural event, and maybe it wasn't even that terrifying in the grand scheme of things, but none of us dared bring up those 2 mannequins again. I'm not sure if it was a real curse or just a cruel prank, but whenever I remember those words painted on the mannequin, their most beloved person will die, I think about how, if something like that really happened, it would be the most painful thing imaginable. Minus I work in Hiroshima, but I live about an hour away by train, and even after you get to the station, you still have to take a bus to reach my place. It's pretty remote. That day was a Saturday. I'd finally finished a stretch of overtime shifts, and since the next day was my day off, I went out drinking with a co-worker. We sat in an izakaya, drinking and complaining about my boyfriend. My boyfriend does nothing all day. When he's not gambling, he's drinking. Lately, he's been constantly asking me for money. Honestly, I'm exhausted from supporting a man like that. But for some reason, I can't leave him. Maybe I really do love him. Or maybe it's just that he's good minus looking. Either way, he's been asking me for money non-stop lately, and I've already given him basically all my savings. I don't have anything left to give. It's been driving me crazy. We even got into a fight about it. He said horrible things to me, told me he'd sell me to a hostess club or a brothel, make me work there so I could earn more money for him. My friend tried to comfort me. She told me to leave him. After all, there were plenty of decent guys at the company who were interested in me. That night, because of everything with my boyfriend, I drank way too much. My friend and I stayed out late. I barely made it onto the last train. While I was on board, my boyfriend sent me a message: don't come home too late. Be safe on the train. The area where I live is so remote that even in front of the station, there are hardly any taxis. What part of yourselves? What part of your chimus? What part of your sinners? But not silence. Any silence. What part of your silence? What part of yourselves? What part of yourselves? What show us? You may see in the silence. What me know in the comments. What's like no. What part of yourself? Meat. Meat. What part of yourselves? What part of yourselves? What part of your sin? What part of your sister? What part of your sentence? What's and a silence. What part of your silence? 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 You must. What part of your silence? What part of your silence? What part of your silence? What this? What am I? What part of your silence? What part of your silence? Later, the man told me he was getting off at that factory parking lot. On the way there, I overheard him continue the phone call. He said something like, "We'll be there in a few minutes. There are 5 of us, and we'll take care of it for you." Then he made another call, apparently arranging to meet someone at that factory parking lot. The taxi driver told me all this, but I still had no idea what was going on. I asked him, "Then why did you stop here?" The driver said, "Actually, when we were close to that factory parking lot, I noticed the office lights inside the factory weren't on, so that man who got in earlier probably wasn't an employee there. I found that odd. Then I saw a van parked by the roadside across from the factory parking lot. The moment my headlights swept over it, I noticed 4 men who immediately ducked out of sight. That was already suspicious enough, right? But the most important thing was I recognized who was sitting in the van's driver's seat. It was the same man who took the taxi just now. At that moment, I suddenly recalled what he had been saying on the phone. A bad feeling crept over me. I thought, what if something happens to you after you get off at the factory parking lot? That's why I quickly drove away from there. After the driver finished telling me this, I was stunned. How could someone be watching me? This terrible thought flashed through my mind. I remembered how, just before at the station, I had messaged D, my boyfriend. It told him I was waiting for a taxi in front of the station. Then it'd be going to that factory before walking home and that it'd probably arrive within half an hour. No one besides my boyfriend knew where it'd get off. Then I also recalled the message he sent me on the tram: "Don't come home too late. Be careful on the tram." How did he know I was already on the tram? Just as fear was rising inside me, my phone rang. I saw my boyfriend's message, "Where are you?" This happened in the early 1990s, when I was studying at a university in Michigan. In the U.S., at university, professors always asked us to write special reports, of course. They had to be typed on a computer. The university I attended had several computer labs equipped with about 50 machines. Many students would stay overnight typing reports there. That day, I was busy searching for sources at the library, then writing my report. After dinner, I carried my collected materials and walked into a computer classroom. I sat down in front of a computer and started typing. Every day was the same routine, which I found frustrating. Most of the computers could access the internet. Back then, Netscape was the main browser. Web pages mostly contained research papers, pretty dull. Because the internet was slow, websites were incredibly simple. Usually just a few low-resolution pictures and plain text. Search engines hadn't advanced yet, so most web addresses were spread by word of mouth or made by students on campus. That night, while writing my report as usual, I noticed a URL written in pencil on another computer desk. Curious, I thought this must be a student's website on campus. Wanting a break from my routine, I typed the address into the browser. After a while, the page loaded, and it was unbelievable. There was a photo of a dimly lit room, showing a man covered in blood, collapsed on the floor. I was so shocked by the cruel image that I trembled and felt like I might vomit. Below the photo was a line of English text: "A guy, about 30 years old, from Michigan, killed by me today." It was obviously a serial killer's fake